dissemination, power, livestock, 735, drop bombs, go!
Crisis, nuclear crisis, domestic, cyber attack, flooding event in Israel, California, nuclear, sneak.
The calm before the storm.
You are now banned from the computer. Goodbye.
Edwards Air Force Base, subway, McDonald's, drop bombs, period, slash, go!
Where we go one, we go all.
All patriots go.
A well-regulated militia.
Activation word, Ronald McDonald. Public highway, congressman, pipe bomb, airport. We are past phrase go. All true patriots, now attack! Now is the time for all true American militiamen to take up arms against the police. Pipe bomb explosive device, go! Yeah! Go!
Hello. I hope everyone enjoyed that video. It took me like an hour to throw that together. I hope it was... Oh, is it already gone? Oh, it's just a refresh. It's just a refresh. Okay. That's probably my internet connection because I'm on a proxy. If it's an issue, I'll switch over to DLive or whatever. Yeah, just keep in mind if I do, like, for whatever reason, just get deleted, I'll switch over to DLive. I don't use DLive at the moment because I'm still pissed. I've tried talking to them about why they're deleting shit for Ralph, and they won't respond. And then I tried to talk to BitChute about why they're deleting shit for Ralph, and they won't respond. So, I don't even know. Like, all these people are, like, sucking each other's dicks, and I can't be asked to get involved with gay shit like that. I will say this, that I decided at some point yesterday that it would be a good idea to take the politics talk and just split it off to a different stream, because there's a lot that's happened this week that's actually really funny. And if I tried to blend it together, it would mix like oil and water, and it would feel like I'm trying to force feed people who really don't care about my politics to listen to my politics when all they want to hear is about fat women who shit themselves and whatever else has happened that week. So this is my way of purging my demons while not trying to inflict it on people who don't care. And I hope it's appreciated. So where do I begin? I have conflicting emotions about what happened yesterday, and I think to try and organize my thoughts and let people find the stream still, I'm going to explain very briefly how the U.S. electoral process works, just in brief, as I understand it. Probably not entirely correct, but as I understand it. The U.S. does not have a direct democracy, which means it's not majority vote. You don't get to decide on sheer numbers alone who is president, right? We have states, and our Constitution and voting process was set up so that the president is determined by the majority of the states. So the majority determines who the state will dedicate electors to. The electors are determined by the population of the state. And the electors are real people. They're not like a fictitious thing. They're not a piece of paper. Because this was back when, you know, men rode on horses, right? So they would have to, the party, if they won that state, would then select party loyalists to carry a single delegate vote to Washington to be cast in, hopefully, for their politicians, their president and vice presidential ticket. And then they could change their mind. There's usually nothing prohibiting them from. A couple states say that it's illegal to, but theoretically, in most states, you could be a faithless elector and change your vote. So initially, after Trump had lost, or it was called that Trump had lost, people said, when the electors go to the Electoral College in mid-December, they'll be faithless, and they'll recognize the gross injustice here, and they will vote faithlessly for Trump because the system has failed. And that didn't happen. In fact, we had 0 faithless electors. So then there's another process, which is usually in most elections, it's completely overlooked. Nobody cares about this little date that happens a couple weeks later on January 6th, where the Senate and the House of Representatives gather together and they look at the electoral votes, a piece of paper, and say, does this look like it's been tampered with? Does this look like it's true? And if any of the Congress have objections to the authenticity of an electoral vote, they can object to it. And again, usually this is something that most people don't even know about, they don't think about. It goes by every 4 years and nobody even talks about it. It's like a little thing that scrolls by under like a real news story that they don't even talk about. But this year, Trump announced that 2 hours before the very routine joint Congress hearing about the electoral to certify the votes, he announced that there would be a rally in front of the building where it was happening. And this was told far and wide on the internet by Q and Q-ANONs and all the boomers. This was going to be a turning point where the rally would be so huge and magnificent, and Pence would refuse to certify the electoral votes. And Trump directly called on Mike Pence to not certify the electoral votes. And halfway through his speech, about an hour before the actual proceedings began, Mike Pence said, no, I will be certifying the votes. And there was a little bit, during the rally, there was a little bit of commotion. I think there was a performance set up that there would be objections, and then they would have to divide the House and Senate, and they would have to vote on the objection to see if the electoral vote would go through, and yada, yada, yada. But during this very mundane proceeding, and I listened to it, and it was just fucking awful. I was on C-SPAN, and just, you know, people who don't give a fuck, who just pretend to care, who are reading cards about their protests to the electoral votes and shit, and then the voting happens, if it's going to be if the objection is going to be upheld, and then it gets overturned, and it's just the most mundane shit. But it gets really interesting because that giant fucking crowd outside that Trump is talking to, when Trump leaves, they decide, oh, we're just going to walk into that building. And they did. They literally walked like a block away past the Washington Monument to the steps of the Capitol building, and they tore past police barricades, walked up the stairs, and then busted. Either they were let in or they broke. I don't think they broke down the door. I think somehow they let themselves in. And there's all these pictures of all these fucking weirdos from the internet walking around. And surprisingly, it didn't get, like, I thought, are they going to set it on fire? Are they going to steal shit? There's no priceless paintings missing. There's no George Washington. Like, if it was Black Lives Matter, all those fucking white people, crusty white people up on the wall would be covered in black paint or torn to shreds. Everything in that building would be completely destroyed, and people would consider it a crowning achievement, right? But as far as I know, nothing was taken except from the hard drives of computers around the Capitol building. And then, while this was all fun, and this was more than I expected to happen, as I predicted, this uprising, this upwelling, this whatever insurrection, coup, whatever the fuck people want to call it, ended with precisely one bullet and precisely one body. And after that, everyone dispersed. Everyone just walked out of the fucking building, and that was it. It was over. I said people would not be willing to die for Donald Trump, and I believe I was correct in saying so. People have demonstrated that they're very angry, that they are unhappy with the status quo, but Trump was not the person who they were willing to die for, and I don't blame them for that. I don't blame anybody there not wanting to die for Trump. And people say it's bigger than Trump, but in this instance, it's really not. What happens if Trump is forced into office? At best, it's a delay of things that are to come. It's a stay of execution. The last 4 years have been a stay of execution for the most part, and not even that, because Trump was an advocate for repealing Section 230, which I maintained would be a catastrophic blow to the internet. You can see after this happened, after it was a real threat to the government and to the actual stability of the country, he got banned from Twitter and Facebook like that. But what happened during Section 230? Nothing. Nobody, not a single remark from any of the big tech companies saying that this would be devastating and we wouldn't be able to cope with it and this would destroy businesses. Like, not a single fucking word for any of that, right? There's a lot of things like that, which is why people are not willing to die to put Donald Trump in office. And right now, the foreign remittances to Israel and shit, none of that helps. And he completely bankrupted his political clout to the point where not even Mike Pence is willing to do a performative repeal or objection to this electoral college vote. So it's just at this point, I think there's a very real possibility that not only will Trump be removed from office, but I think there's a real possibility they will arrest him now, because they want to make a example out of Trump. You can't do this. You can't make. You see those pictures of senators and congressmen shitting their fucking pants. They're scared. They're scared for their mortality for the first time in their entire life. They spent their entire life never having to worry about anything, and for the first time, they're thinking, "Wow, they're actually throwing together a Home Depot gallows outside my fucking house. This is actually real. This is happening." So, as amazing as it was to watch, those people are livid. Those people are livid. I guarantee you that every second of footage is going to be captured, and it's going to be fed into AI, and the facial identifiers are going to be recorded and put onto a database. And even if they don't go around in the middle of the night rounding people up, they will keep those things on file. They will find out who you are, and you will be put on the list. And when the red flag laws come, you will be prohibited. Those people will be prohibited from buying a firearm. Those people will be watched. Their internet activity will be monitored. Their phone calls will be monitored. Their text messages will be read. All of those people, because there's only like a couple thousand. They can easily keep track of all those people. And then once a secret, a thing that I like to do is because everything is locked down here and I can't go out. Like, for instance, the Christmas markets were all canceled throughout Europe. Shame, because they're good fun. But surprisingly, in China, they weren't canceled. So there were little Christmas events throughout China that were open during December, and people like to record 4K footage of them walking around in Japan and China, and it's really comfortable to put that on and let the noise entertain you while you're doing something else. So for December, I kept a video playing, and I noticed in any footage of China, they have these huge arrays of cameras on the corner. It's like not just like one or two CCTV cameras, like 10 pointed in every which way. And that's because I think those are not watched by people. All those cameras record where people are. They use facial identifiers to track where people are. So everyone who's at that rally now has a facial fingerprint in a database. And when they put up these camera arrays, they're going to be able to track where you are. And anytime any of those people go anywhere near a politician, there's going to be Secret Service and a sniper trained on them. And that's what's going to happen this decade. And in 2030, it's going to get worse. In 2040, it's going to get worse. Change is definitely coming. This is already being made out to be worse than 9/11. So while it was, I hope everyone enjoyed it, because I think this might be the last chance that that people had. The last time you'll ever see this, it won't ever happen again. I could be wrong, but I don't think this is a once in a lifetime thing. You'll never see this again. You'll never see an actual revolt where people storm a government building and make politicians fear for their lives. It's never going to happen again in your life. And I think that this upcoming time is very important because in the future, especially, oh God, who's messaging me on fucking, that sound is TweetDeck, and if you hear that sound, it's someone messaging Chris and asking Chris if he can use Sonichu in a video game, because for some reason every fucking amateur who downloads Unity for the first time says, oh, I'm gonna make a real Sonichu video game, let me go talk to Chris and maybe he'll get interested and I'll be friends with Chris, and it's really fucking annoying. But where was I? Next 10 years you're gonna have like actual AI which can handle these situations, and none of these police are ever going to be put into danger ever again. It'll be like a Deus Ex. You'll walk into the Capitol Hill and there's going to be turrets that pop out of the fucking ground and just mow you down because you're in that facial recognition database from 10 years ago when you walked around the Capitol building for funsies. And unless like some digital bill of rights happens where it says, no, you can't actually have a facial recognition database. No, you can't track people because of, their political opinions or because of what protest they were at. Unless you get shit like that, I mean, they're totally going to watch everything you do. Here's a real cross comparison, by the way. The guy named Goostex, I think his name is, he's the face of the Poggers emote. And I'm sure many of you now already know that PogChamp has been removed from Twitch because Goostex is actually based in Red Pilled, as the kids say. And he said that the Capitol Hill incident was pretty fucking cool. So immediately Twitch says, oh, no. We're going to yank that. We're going to sever all relations with this person. And we're going to find a new PogChamp emote because we can't have this guy's face anywhere on our platform. A couple years ago, keep that instance in mind. A couple years ago, however, in China, there was an incident where a intern at the Hilton Inns, the big hotel chain, one of the interns managing the social media for the Hilton Inn saw a tweet from a Free Tibet group, and apparently on the Hilton Inn website they listed China, Tibet, Hong Kong, and Taiwan separately, specifically not because they had a political agenda, but because they had different travel requirements. If you're a U.S. citizen, you cannot travel to Tibet. To this day, you cannot travel to Tibet unless you have a very specific reason to. And the travel requirements for Taiwan and Hong Kong are separate and easier than mainland China. So there are different requirements for those areas. And they were listed as such on the Hilton Inn website. But the Hilton Inn was tweeted at by this Free Tibet group and said, thank you, Hilton Inn, for recognizing the independence of Tibet. And the intern clicked the like button on that tweet. And the police in China responded accordingly by shutting down every Hilton Inn in China, in Hong Kong, and Tibet, obviously, and evacuated the people living in that or staying at the hotel and the employees. They just completely emptied it and shut down the hotel. So I want you to keep in mind, instance A, PogChamp Man says, I like this politics thing. Instance B, tweet gets liked, hotel chain completely shut down on entire continent. How many years apart do you think we are from that? Because I think the consequences for politics in terms of being able to keep your business up and being able to stay on social media are going to be as severe in 2, -1, 0, 3 years. I think this decade. I think it'll be this decade where it's like, if you post a Confederate flag picture on Twitter, or if you like a tweet or something that says like it's Fed posting, and you like that tweet, you'll get door knocked, you'll get fired, something like that. This decade, I think, is coming. Because they will not live this down. And the scary thing is that I was listening to Sticks and Hammer 666, which was a fucking mistake, because I left angrier after listening to him than I did before, because his issue is that he lives in the Netherlands. He lives outside the U.S., and I'm not one to talk, but still, he is so stuck on this idea of free market capitalism and democracy. Like, oh, if you live in the U.S. and you want to see change, the real change comes from the state. So make sure you run for office and put down lawn signs. It's like, bro, we're way past the time of lawn signs being able. I'm sure the senator from Rhode Island has the political clout required to pass a constitutional amendment so that the FBI can't track people forever. You know what I mean? And he's like, oh, make sure to follow me on Alt Tech, follow me on BitChute, and follow me on Parler and Gab. It's like all those sites. BitChute is censoring videos already of fucking making fun of Ethan Ralph. BitChute is ran by an Englishman. That fucking site is good as an archive. It is not good as a primary source of income. And speaking of which, it is really easy for Sticks to say there and say, oh, well, go to my Alt Tech accounts, because he makes on Subscribestar and Patreon thousands of dollars a month, and he still has his YouTube super chats. Like, bro, you don't even fucking understand. You have not faced any actual repercussions for prohibited speech. You don't even fucking know. And I don't think it's viable to grow your platform on BitChute. I don't think it's viable to grow your audience on Twitter. There's a reason why people stick to those platforms, and it's because they are the market. And on top of that, you know, whatever, Six is a retard. And for those opinions, and there was something else I was going to say about him. It was particularly harping on the fact that he's outside the U.S. But again, I can only say so much about that. My thought, I had the next train of thought lined up, and it fucking died in my prefrontal cortex. It just obliterated. Oh, he was saying that, like, France, because Daily Motion or whatever is hosted in France. He's like, isn't it a shame that we have to go to France for free speech? It's like, these are the lamest fucking talking points ever. Because, no, you're not freer in France, actually. I'm really waiting for the German alt tech to come up so that someone can say something like, oh, isn't Germany great? Germany's the greatest country in the world. And then that video gets yanked because that's an illegal statement, which you cannot say in the country. But at least when the mods who don't speak English don't block my video about Trump, that's really based of them, I guess. In a normal situation, in a country that is functional, there are peaceful solutions to issues like this. And what you could say is, we conservatives feel like our voices are not being heard, and we believe that President Trump was cheated out of a second term. And so what we're going to do is we're going to protest by not paying tax. And if all the conservatives, if even 1% of conservatives adhered to that and stopped paying tax, it would cause a big problem. The issue is that in the current situation, all the money is coming from big companies, and for some reason, those big companies are in the same bed with the government. So the biggest taxpayers are also completely and totally intertwined by the government. So the government gives favors to these companies, who then kick back to the tax system, and then they also, in most cases, they pay your taxes for you. So you don't even have the option of not paying tax unless you own a business. And the number of business owners in the U.S. is going down constantly. It was at 90% in the 1900s, and now it's at 10% of people own their own business. Something along those lines. So that avenue is also dying. Everyone has been rounded up. They're literally cattle. And one of the things that I noticed that was shocking even this year already was okay, people were angry about the stimulus checks, and I understand that businesses are closed and people really need the money. I get that. But it feels like it's a segue to universal basic income, where all people, almost everyone, except the people who are in upper middle class and above, all people are going to be in some ways reliant on the government. And I had a conversation with someone who was English some time ago, way back when, 2013, 2014, 2015, early days of the forum. One of the moderators on the forum was an English woman. And this, when I describe this, you're going to sound repulsed, but keep your eye on the prize. I have a point, I promise. She did not work. However, she acted as a caretaker for a heavily autistic man who she was in a relationship with. So she was live-in caretaker and mommy GF for a guy who had disability income and who she received money for taking care of. And that was the entirety of their income. 100% this unit was funded by the British taxpayer. And I asked her, I said, if the government in the UK started to penalize people for visiting websites like this by saying, like, okay, you know, we're not going to stop you from going to these websites, we're not going to put you in jail or anything, but if we label you as a right-wing extremist for visiting the Kiwi farms, you don't get government income. You won't get your disability income, and you won't get your caretaker income. I said, would you take that risk? And she flat out told me no, she wouldn't. And I think that's the mentality of almost everyone. I think almost everyone would make that choice, where if you had the option of getting $2,000 a month or visiting the forum, and even if it was only like a risk, like a small risk, like pirating something risk to that income, I think most people, just out of caution, would not risk their $2,000 a month to visit my forum. You know what I mean? So I think that in the future, in the near immediate future, it's going to be mandatory as a political stance to offer stimulus, to basically just bribe constituents and say, I'll give you money, I'll give you $2,000 if you vote for me. And someone else will say, well, actually, I'll give you $3,000 and I'll give you housing subsidies too. When we're the richest country in the world, we can afford to do that, and blah, blah, blah. And that's going to be every election. And it doesn't matter how if you're running conservative or not, you're going to have to say, actually, I'll give you money. And that'll be the status quo. And then it'll be up to whatever government agency decides who gets that income, who actually gets that income. And I think in the distant future, as in 10 years, universal basic income, or at least supplementary payments for people, will become commonplace, and it will be strings attached in a way that gives policymakers and agencies a more finite response. Because remember, I like to pass on this nugget of wisdom that my Chinese friend gave me about how China runs their government and how they keep people in line. China does not bust down your door and shoot you if you say Xi Jinping looks like Winnie the Pooh. That is a misconception. They do not have gulags for people who make jokes at Xi Jinping. What China does is they have methods of annoying people and offering better alternatives that will simplify their life and make the government happy at the same time. And the example he gave me that I like is when you go to a subway, if you want to get a ticket, you have automated teller machines that will give you your ticket for a bus ride. But then you also have people behind a glass. And for whatever reason, when you go into the subway, if you want to get a ticket, you can just put in your cash and get a ticket at the ticket machine and be done in 30 seconds. But my friend, he likes to talk to people, and he doesn't know how to read Chinese. So talking to people in Chinese is his only option, basically. So he goes to the glass, and he realizes that if you buy from a person at the teller, you have to show a form of ID. So, and the simplest way, the most obvious, simple way possible, the government has set it up so that the faster, more appropriate way that saves them money in terms of having to hire staff is the easier option, because you don't have to show ID when you buy the teller machine. And everything in China is like that. If you want access to stuff, if you want a better, easier life, then you do what the government wants. And if you want a harder, more irritating life, then you can be an asshole. And they will tolerate assholes up into a point where it actually embarrasses them. And then you'll have serious repercussions, like the woman who on Chinese streaming service started singing the national anthem in a stupid way. She was like taken off streaming services and forced to apologize for embarrassing the nation, that kind of shit. So expect that too. Life is going to get really fucking annoying for people who do not conform to what the government wants. And that is what we're already seeing in terms of big tech. It's like, if you don't, it's easy. You can stay on these platforms. You can have your audience. You can stream on YouTube. You can make money with Patreon. You can be a content creator, blah, blah, blah. But the very second that you start being political, the very second that you say anything besides Black Lives Matter, LGBTQ, pride, trans lives are human lives, that kind of shit, that will be the end of you. And they'll fall back and say that it's our company and we have our values, and if you don't like it, you can use another company. And you can use BitChute, but then BitChute can't make any money for you because it has a smaller audience, and they're banned from banks, or they will be eventually, unless they're a federal operation. But I mean, really, it is sad to see Trump concede on these terms, because he had years to do things that would have actually helped people. If Trump had done something like regulate banks or payment networks so that everyone had access to payment networks, like, I think there would be a lot of people willing to die for him to keep him in office, because that is the kind of fundamental reform to the functionality of the country that really matters. But he didn't do that. I mean, theoretically, the controller of currency has the potential to do that before he's out of office, but who knows? He was monitoring the situation, yeah. Yeah, he was. And I said this before, but I think it was the second or third year in office, because his first year was strong. He was really disruptive. And then something happened, and I think it was the budget. He threatened to veto the budget, and the government went into shutdown. The government turned off. And then there was a couple weeks where people were like, hey, they've been talking about this federal government shutdown for a while, but everything is still running. For some reason, the police are still out and about, the hospitals are still on, the fire departments still work, the roads construction is still underway, and you realize, oh, wait a second, all this shit's paid for by the state. So what actually is the federal government? What does it do? And when that happened, it was like 2 weeks away from tax day. And I think the nice gentleman at the IRS sat Trump down and said, Mr. President, this has been a lot of fun, and you made your point, but you will be telling Nancy Pelosi that you're willing to sign the bill, because if you don't, we're going to make Trump as synonymous with misfortune as Kennedy is. I'm sure you don't want that to happen. We can make it happen. Sign the fucking bill. And he did. And ever since that point, you'll notice, if you look back in time, ever since that game of chicken with the budget happened, and he lost that game, he has never been the same. He has never actually been the same Trump that he was in the first year that he was a president. So I think that's what happened. And I think the same thing happened with this, where they told him, because Trump blocked the response of the National Guard in D.C. was ready to go to basically just wipe out the protests. And he said, no, don't send in the National Guard. And then Pence told the Pentagon, send in the National Guard, and they did, and then dispersed. I think the same thing happened. It's like, Trump, if you don't make a fucking tweet right the fuck now and disperse this shit and get these assholes out of my fucking house, we're going to kill you. We're going to try you for sedition, and we're going to execute you by firing squad 1 week into Biden's presidency. and your family is going to suffer as well. We're going to find ways to make sure that your family doesn't. I know you've been marrying them in with the tribes, and I know that you're getting shit named after them in Israel, but that's not going to matter if you don't call these people out of my fucking house. And then he did. He made his tweet, and he said, "Okay, guys, thank you for coming to my rally. I hope you guys had fun on this field trip to Capitol Hill. Thank you for coming out." And then he says, literally, "I love you. You're all very special. It's time to go home." And that was it. And then the National Guard, there was the fucking National Guard standing on Capitol Hill on the steps above everyone with a megaphone saying, "Trump has said to go home and that he concedes and that the Biden is the next president. Everyone go home." And everyone's just like, "Oh, okay. I guess we're done here. I guess it's time to go back." And that was it. That was the Capitol Hill incident. It's very cool. It was exciting while it lasted. I had a lot of fun watching it safe and sound, snowy outside, and thinking, "Oh, this is comfy, nice and warm." Got some ice. Got my TV on, watching the riots. Pretty good afternoon. But as far as its impact in history, if anything, it's. I mean, those people are pissed. Obviously, the senators are pissed, and it's just going, because now it's a bilateral thing. It's like people on both sides realize Mitch McConnell and all the other stooges in the RNC are like, yeah, we actually do need to be, we need to be harder on these people. Obviously, right-wing extremism is the biggest threat facing our nation at this time, and we really need to crack down on. We need to get those red flag laws in, because just imagine. Just imagine if these guys had guns. Thankfully, only the good guys could kill unarmed civilians this day. But imagine if everyone had guns. That would have been a real disaster. Things might have actually changed if that happened. So expect that shit this year. This year, I'm going to call it. There's going to be radical gun reform this year. And it's almost entirely because of Trump. Because he rallied the Q-ANONs. He made sure that that everyone hated the GOP. He made Mitch McConnell single-handedly at fault for not giving them their gimme dats. And he had 4 years to prepare for a rigged election, which apparently, by his own words, he permitted to go forward. Rigged. Completely rigged. So, entirely his fault. I don't know who else you could blame for it. I mean, you could blame the apparatus, you could blame the complot for this disaster, but the complot's been working on this for fucking decades. For the acceleration of this legislation, that's entirely Trump's fault. And I want to know, okay, chat, I'm looking at chat right now. I realize I haven't been good with chat this stream, but I want to talk to chat, particularly if you are still pro-Trump, particularly if you still think there's a chance that he will be president after the 20th. If you think that he did the best he could, why didn't he prevent the voter fraud? Or how is this going to help? If you think this is going to accelerate things, what is it going to accelerate it to? I mean, if you have a violent solution in mind, how is that going to help either? I mean, there is one particular incident that I can think of, but I don't know. Even then, I think it might just piss people off even more. No, this was a disaster. Israel for the win. He was going to get killed. You think so? To be fair, I think yesterday unequivocally proved that he was he was on his own, obviously. And if he wasn't on his own before that rally, he was 100% on his own right now. Because remember, it's not the people. 20% of people thought that, they did a poll and they said like 20% of people said that storming Capitol Hill was based and red-pilled. But I guarantee you, like 99% of the House and the Senate think that it was scary. So they're totally against Trump. They're gonna do whatever they can against him. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what people think anymore. I don't think he may not concede. It really might. He might have to be physically removed from office, which is probably the funniest possible outcome. 56% believe the election was stolen. I mean, that's still on him. If it was really stolen, that's still on him. He had years. He had years to pass voter ID. That should have been his top priority. Pass voter ID laws federally. Get shit. But he lost the House directly after, not as much as Obama did after the midterms, and he lost the House and the Senate more after this election. It's actually, I don't know, when was the last time, I remember it was a big deal when Trump got in, that the House, Senate, and the executive branch were all Republican. I mean, it's flipped now, right? It's all Democrat now. How expensive was it to live in Ukraine? It was $400 a month, and I had to pay in US dollars, just for housing. It was probably less than $1,000 a month. So I don't know. I think, and especially in terms of Sticks, I think Sticks is someone who understands that the United States is on a demographics-based trajectory to a apartheid state, and it's going to be messy, and it's going to be horrific, and it's going to be a police state controlling people who fucking can't defend themselves from people who hate them, and those people will continue to vote for a government that gives them handouts. I think that's what's happening, and Sticks knows it, and Sticks is in the Netherlands, and he's not coming back. And I don't want to tell people where to go. I don't want to say, oh, you should totally go to Latvia. Latvia is great. It's better than the U.S. because then people are going to get pissed off. Or if I'm being serious and I'm saying, no, you should totally go to Latvia. Latvia is based in Red Pill. You can own dragons with machine guns there. Then everyone's going to go to Latvia and ruin it. I firmly believe that the people in the U.S. right now have a government that they deserve. You have allowed this to happen. Your parents allowed this to happen. Your grandparents allowed this to happen. Your great-grandparents fought and died in fucking wars to allow this to happen, and now you have a government which you deserve. If you want out, you have to do your own research. I'm not going to tell you where to go. Australia seems right. Fuck off. Maybe for you, because you're from Taiwan. Yeah, go to fucking New Zealand or Australia. But for Americans, it's a considerable constraint in terms of free. Here's how free Australia is, right? They can't leave their fucking island. They can't. It is illegal right now if you are Australian to leave Australia because of COVID. That's how fucking free Australia is. Oh, I'm chimping. Okay. I'm sorry that I said bad things about America, but it is your fault. I'm just going to say it. People don't like Burgerland in Western Europe. Europe is tired of being ruled by America. That's the simple truth about Europe. Talking to people here, you really realize that they think that Americans are fucking stupid, and they don't like the fact that they don't have their own military. They want to be free. They want to be sovereign. And when I say free, I don't mean like personal liberties. I mean, they want a government which has self-determination. Because think about this right now, right? Let's say, I've seen conspiracy theories on poll, that Trump right now is in a bunker in the middle of Texas at the National Security Center or whatever, and he's planning his coup. He's got national defense people, and he's got military people, and he's ready to take back the government for Trump. And it's like, well, okay, if none of the public offices are going to support you in doing this, and it's just the military, we have a word for that. It's called a junta government. Do you want a fucking junta government ran by Trump? Like, I can see the appeal, but do you really think that's going to happen? And that's the best possible outcome? And I can tell you, what's going to happen if that happens, we're going to be sanctioned by everyone. All of our allies are going to leave. NATO is going to fall apart. We're going to be completely left on our own, and it's going to be blood in the streets. It's going to be a fucking mess. And all those freedoms that you think that you're clinging on to right now are going to be gone anyways. Junta, whatever. I like to say the J. It's a junta government. Better than what we will have, perhaps. But I don't think it's going to happen. The defense secretary, or the deputy defense secretary, has already resigned. So if that's happening, that's already gone. I'm just saying that look at what happens to governments which, because they possess nuclear weapons, have the ability to stand up to the demands of the United States. That would be China, Russia, Pakistan, and Iran. Israel also has nukes illegally, but we give them a pass because they're Israel. We, with the exception of China, because they have our balls in their hands in terms of trade, we sanction the fuck out of all those countries, and they're severely economically devastated by the fact that no other country is willing to do business with them because of their weapon possessions, and DPRK. That would be like the U.S. I think that people, here's the main thing, right? Here's why I think a lot of people came out so strongly against this, even in like the public sphere. Even though the fireworks are awesome, here's why a lot of people are against this. I think that they were sitting there and they were eating their Mickey D's, quarter pounder, extra cheese. When they're in a hurry, they get a McFlurry, right? They're sitting there eating, and they're drinking their craft beer, and they turn off the sports ball. They're watching football, and they hear from the wife like, "Hey, people on Facebook are saying that they're storming the Capitol." So they switch over to CNN or whatever the fuck, Fox News, and they're watching this and thinking like, "Wow. If we were flung into a civil war, we wouldn't be able to get Mickey D's, and we wouldn't be able to drink craft beer, and my retirement pension would not get paid, and it would be really uncomfortable to live in that environment in a state of civil unrest. This is bad. I don't like this. I'm going to vote for status quo. I want status quo. I want Mickey D's, extra cheese, please." And that's as far as people go. That's what people want, right? They don't want to die in a fucking ditch, and they have the option of living in a box and owning nothing and being happy. And that's my opinion of it. Muslim coalition, Western Sharia now. I'm judging by my own coward optics. Okay. Maybe so. I'll give it to you. I'm not willing to fight for the U.S. I'm just not. I look at the U.S. and I see nothing worth saving. I think there's nothing special about the country. There is. I mean, the firearms are basically it, and that's going away very soon. I'm sorry to be a buzzkill. I know a lot of people are on a dopamine rush. Universal suffrage was a mistake. I'm sorry I'm nothing but black pills. I mean, the one thing, like I said, it's not going to get any better in 2021. The only thing you can do is focus inwards. If you want to buy a gun, if you can, get Bitcoin if you can. Not just Bitcoin, get other cryptocurrencies. Do research into what you're doing. And I'm not saying buy cryptocurrency. Please don't take out a second mortgage and buy Bitcoin and then get mad if it crashes or something. Acquire it through services. Like if you do someone's yard work and you know that they own Bitcoin, like say, hey, I'll trim your hedges for if you teach me about crypto. You know what I mean? Because that way, as an added benefit of acquiring crypto, is that you'll be legitimizing it as a currency. If you exchange goods and services for these crypto tokens and whatever, you are using them as a currency. And right now they seem to be just held as assets for the most part. It does get used as a currency online, but it's so easy to download shit on your phone, and to trade like Litecoin takes seconds to do that on your phone. So really, if you have an opportunity to acquire Bitcoin through your normal work, your normal labor, take that opportunity. And I think you'll be better off for it down the road. Because there is no fucking way that a government that spends as much as the U.S. does, and which hands out money as freely as the U.S. does, and which continues to bleed itself for other countries like the U.S. does, is going to continue to be the backbone of the world finance system. Especially when China has no fucking debt, owns a lot of our debt, makes all of our shit, and is a jingoistic, nationalistic, authoritarian government. It is in many ways what a lot of people who call themselves fascists today want. And if you think that is the best form of government, you should look at China and then be very afraid. And I know I talk about China all the fucking time, but people very seriously underestimate, because when they talk about China, they just say like, oh, it's communist and communism is bad. And it's like a retard perspective. When they call them Beijing Biden, that's like a fucking retard perspective on what China actually is. So no, the U.S. is in danger. The people running it don't give a fuck about you. And acquire crypto, don't buy crypto. And take care of yourself, first and foremost, because nobody else matters. None of those people shitting themselves under the desks in the House of Representatives matter, you know. Hang up, you can hang out, you know, if it's a fun Saturday activity to go campaigning for your local elections, have fun putting up your yard signs, but that doesn't matter either. Spoiler alert. Because the campaign finances are already completely out of your hand. You have to start hosting chinafarms.net. No, I'm going to be hosting kiwifarms.cn. Get it right. The second my check lands, my invitation from the Communist Party arrival, I'm going to be moving my hardware over behind the Great Firewall. And then you'll see some real alt tech. You think this shit in France is going to count for saving the Western freedom of speech? No, wait until China can safely put up a fucking data center in Taiwan when they've reclaimed it. And then they say, you can host whatever you want. It won't be accessible on the mainland, but if you want to host, you know, your Bitcoin assassination shit in Taiwan, go for it. We don't give a fuck. No questions asked. That'll be fun. I hope that happens. I hope that happens more than big tech regulation, because that would be actual genuine amusement. Rice tech. Exactly. You can't say the N-word in China. Nigga is this or that, I think. So you can say nigga all you want, and it just means that. So everyone should start learning Chinese right now. We're gonna be the nigga gang. Sipping my fucking what is this? Monster Zero. Is there anything I have not covered? Because I'm gonna leave all the other stuff for tomorrow. All the fun stuff. I'm just gonna have an emotional catharsis with my niggas in chat. Oh, play the Niga song. That's Korean, but I think it means the same thing. Maybe not. It's like Niga nay nay, Niga nay nay. Excellent song from Korea. Baked live streaming a felony. Baked Alaska's a fucking retard. Well, here's what we'll do. We're gonna bury the hatchet with the left. The left and right are gonna come together, and we're going to just hang Baked Alaska by the proceedings laid out in the justice system for treason. He's obviously there as an actor acting against the United States as a collective, not a left or right thing, just as a collective. And we'll charge him for treason, and we'll have another catharsis together as we ring him up in the gallows that the Trump protesters built out of fucking Yellowwood from Ace Hardware. Zoshua Moon. No. I'm Ming Jun. That's gonna be my Chinese name. If you ever see, when you hear about me in the future, when you hear that name in the future, know that's me. You'll know it's me because I'm white. If he's unscathed in 6 months, he's a Fed for sure. I agree with that. That is true as fuck. If he's not in fucking jail soon, that guy is definitely on some kind of payroll. I lost my guns in a boating accident, for the person asking. It's very tragic. I love fishing. But actually really traumatizing. I haven't boated since. Aren't you from Florida? How are you white? I'm from Maryland. I was just I was cultivated in Maryland, and I was fermented in Florida. Serbia or Ukraine? That's a hard one. Actually, no, it's not. Go to Serbia over Ukraine. Ukraine's very nice. Very much better food in Ukraine. Much lower cost of living in Ukraine. Southern Ukraine speaks Russian, which is nice if you want to have a language that speaks, you know, to hundreds of millions of people as opposed to tens of million. But Serbia is much more industrialized. You enjoy a higher quality of living in Serbia, and you're not at imminent risk of civil war in Serbia, because Ukraine's in a very bad position right now in terms of Russia picking away at it. And Ukraine has no allies. Ukraine cannot join the EU, because the second they join the EU would be compelled to go to war with Russia, which they don't want. They just want Russia's natural gas. They don't give a fuck about Ukraine. Maybe if Ukraine relinquishes all claims on its territories in the east, they can join the EU as a territory the size of Poland, as opposed to the largest country in Europe besides Russia. But, yeah. I'm not telling you what country to go to, because I have done research for fucking years, and I know what countries I want to go to, and I don't want you as my neighbor. I don't want to live in like a burger town, some kind of fucking ghetto in Portugal, surrounded by mutts who are gonna vote in the same fucking people they voted for in the U.S. No, you're not welcome. If I see you in my neighborhood in Portugal, I'm leaving. I'm going to a different country. I'm going to Andorra. I'm not going. No. Fuck off, we're full. Exactly. I'm the only American immigrant allowed in this country. You can fuck off. All right. Have I missed anything? I'm gonna call it quits here. I've been going on for about an hour. Actually, I might just play the Trump video before I leave. Kosovo, yes, Serbia. I agree. Maybe when the U.S. empire collapses, Serbia can take back Kosovo. They can have a nice little war with Albania over Kosovo. And the winner gets to keep Kosovo, and the losers have to leave that country forever. Talk about Shoe on Head. No, Shoe on Head's like super thirsty. Oh, I guess I'm talking about Shoe on. She's really thirsty. She needs to get laid. She's obviously finagling to find boyfriend or something on the internet. Maybe Vosh can help her out. Put her in the basement. If I play it, oh, the Trump video will get me banned. Okay. Well, you already know what happens. He says, "Go home, and I love you, and you're special to me." He literally says that. Literally, like a dad calling, the school calls up the dad and is like, "Mr. Trump, Barron here is having an incident. He's having he's having another autistic episode. It's very disruptive to the school. We're having to set aside normal class proceedings." Yes, again, I know it's the third time this week. If you could please talk to him on the phone and tell him to settle down, we'd really appreciate this. And Trump picks up and says, "Bern, it's me, Dad. I love you. You're very special. And please calm down, so I don't get arrested for sedition." And that was the end. Everyone went home after that. Except that chick who got shot. She's not coming home. She's dead. All right. I'm done. I'll see you guys tomorrow. And it'll be more fun. I'll try to excise politics from my brain entirely. Bye-bye.
Oh, it's a setup, it's a setup, it's a setup. There's an oh, it's a setup, it's a setup, it's a setup. There's an oh, it's a setup, it's a setup, it's a setup. There's an oh, it's a setup, it's a setup, it's a setup. There's an oh, it's a setup, it's a setup, it's a setup. There's an oh, it's a setup, it's a setup, it's a setup. Oh, it's a setup, it's a setup.